welcome to Purpose Over Pain TV. My name is Trevon Bosley, and I'm with Miss Marsha Lee. I am part of the Brave Youth Leaders, which stands for Bold Resistance Against Violence Everywhere. It's a group of youth that come from different communities, and we try to come together and make peace. We do rallies, peace marches, and different things like that, and we're located on 7800 South Racine. And here today we'll be talking with Purpose Over Pain, which is a group of parents that have lost their children to gun violence, and we'll be getting their thoughts on certain topics and different ideas. So, hello, Miss Marsha.
Well, hello. Thank you.
Okay, my first question to you is, how did you get involved in your anti-violence fight, and what are you currently doing?
I got involved when my son, Thomas Lee, was shot and killed August 13, 2008. My son was killed in Harvey, Illinois, and I didn't know what to do. Rather than sit at home and ball up in a knot, I had to get involved. I had to do something. And I reached out to some parents who I had been put in contact with, and that Purpose Over Pain.
That's great. That's great that you guys go out and you don't want any other children to do the same, well, be in the same situation.
That's correct.
And why do you believe families stay in the Chicago area, knowing of its violent character?
Well, I believe some people feel like I do. You know, this is our home. This is where we have made our living. For me personally, I worked and retired after nearly 40 years on one job. I live in my house. This is it's my house, my community where I live, and I want to stay here and fight. What am I going to do? Keep starting all over? No, you can't do that. Stay here and fight and make it better.
Completely understand. Well, according to HeyJackass.com, 1,923 people have been shot to this day in Chicago, and 360 people have been killed. So this violence epidemic can't continue. So that leads into my next question to you. What do you believe are the key causes to Chicago's violence epidemic?
Oh, there's so many. One, it starts in the home, of course. Everything starts in the home. So if you don't have a strong family base or strong community to pull from to make your family base what it should be to rear children, that's where it starts. But then we need for our children to be educated in the school system. We need for our children to get some morals and values, whether it's in church or another meaningful way. And I don't necessarily believe that a child has to come from a two-parent home, but our children need to be able to have adults that they can talk to, they can go to with their problems, and that could be a teacher or a neighbor. There's so many things. Children need something to do after school. You can't just expect to release after school and just have nothing concrete, nothing constructive to do. When I was growing up, we had a social center. We need some place for children to go and channel their energies in a positive way.
I completely agree. I was thinking the same thing, like with, everything, the anti-violence funds being cut and different things going on with the government. I believe that, in order for violence to decrease, you have to have some outlet for the youth. You got to have some after schools. You have to have some jobs, different things like that to actually keep the youth involved. So I completely agree. And there was a video, I don't know if you saw it or not, but it's been going around social media, and it's a video of some youth, some children, they're in a confrontation with some older guys, and they're like, the youth are basically gangbanging towards the older guys. They're saying like, oh, where you from? I'm BD, I'm from O Block, different things like that. And then as the video continues, the child acts as if he has a gun on him or something, and he moves it to the other child. And whether he had a gun or not, I don't know. But the video is going around social media and everything. So I wanted to ask you this next question. Do you think it's a parenting problem or a societal problem with the youth of our city?
Oh, I think it's a problem with all of us, us adults. So that would include society, and parents are part of society. If there is, like I said, just like there's no one answer, there is no one issue that contributed to the problem. Our children, our youth are in trouble because our parents, our adults are in trouble. We can't give the children what we don't have.
Right.
And so you have younger parents, not to say that young parents can't raise their children in a good way, but we have younger parents and they don't know what to do, or they came from I hate to use the word dysfunctional, but my vocabulary escapes me, but they came from a family or lack of a family environment, and so therefore they don't have it to give to their children.
Right.
So it's not just one thing that's the problem. Society does not give to the underserved like we should. If we help the least of these, that would help us as in general, on whole. So I can't, my household or my children or my life cannot be good and productive if yours isn't.
Right.
You know, because we're all here together. So it's I guess the short answer would be it's a society problem.
Right. I completely agree, because there's problems going on both ways in parenting, the household. Like, I know for some schools and different things like that, like with teachers and stuff, they believe that, they can't really get through their lessons entirely because of children being disruptive and everything. And that starts at the home. So people can't even get through a lesson. Without a lesson, you don't have an education, and that goes back into the other problems. So my next question is, I know back in the day, people used to say that it takes a village to raise a child. And I know, well, not in my generation, the village isn't really prevalent. Like, it's not that many people that will go out and just talk to any youth. So my question to you is, where do you think the village is in these current days?
I think the village is the extended family. I think the village is the neighborhood, the community where you live. I think the village is the school system. Excuse me. That's the village currently. But although I agree in that adage that it does take a village, I also believe that you have to make a decision yourself to do better. Just because you had some issues in your life that didn't allow you to fulfill your purpose, you as an individual have to decide at some point, okay, I'm going to break this. My mom didn't have it, my dad didn't have it, but I'm going to be the one to have it. You have to decide within yourself, I'm going to get this. I'm going to go out and do what's best for me and do it.
I truly agree with that, too. You have to be able to break the generational curses. You can't just let them continue, or else they're just going to keep growing and growing, and that's what the problem we have today. So my last question to you is, can you just give us and the viewers some final words of advice on raising children in violent communities?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Raising children in violent communities. I would have to go back to the village. I believe that my son was my youngest child, and my daughter is an adult, and I have no grandchildren. So I don't know what it's like to raise a child in a violent community, but I do reach out to other people who have young children, and presently I take some young people to day camp, and then I pick them up after day camp. I'm part of their village. So that's all I know to do is to reach out for us, for the adults, to reach out to the ones we see in need. The adults, all of us, the village. And again, I have to stress that it's the teacher, it's the pastor, it's all of us. We all have a part to play in this. And again, it's you, the individual. You have a part in the play and how your life turns out. And when I want to go back to the church, a lot of times they say we have to pray. Yes, we do have to pray. Right. Yes, we have to pray, but they forget that God gave us a mind that He wants us to use. And so in addition to praying, we have to get up and do something. Sure. We have to make this world. I could just sit back and say, I don't have any young children, and just stay in my house. But that's not the thing to do. Right. I have to make it, hopefully, so that no other family suffers what my family is suffering from the loss of my son.
I completely agree. And as for any adults that want to get involved, you can get in contact with Purpose Over Pain. And for any youth that want to get involved and you want to do anything in your community, you get involved with Brave. We meet on Thursdays at 3:30 at 7800 South Racine. In the next segment, we'll be coming back with Trinity and Mr. Bosley.
When the glory comes, it will be ours. It will be ours.
He knows a lot of what to say.
One day, when the war is won, we will be sure. We will be sure. Oh, glory, glory, oh.
Hi, my name is Trinity Cole. I'm also a part of the Brave Youth Leaders, and I'm here with Mr. Bosley. He is the president of Purpose Over Pain. Can you tell me a little bit more about yourself and how you got involved in this work?
Sure. How I got involved in this work was actually 11 years ago. My son Terrell Bosley was a victim of gun violence. He was actually hit with a stray bullet as he was attending choir rehearsal on Halsted Street in Chicago. And ever since that event took place in my family's life, my wife and I decided to see what we could do to try to make a difference so that, unfortunately, other parents wouldn't have to go through what we have went through in having your family life devastated.
Are you involved with any other violence prevention programs?
Yeah, in addition to Purpose Over Pain, which, just to reflect a little bit on Purpose Over Pain, again, that's an organization of parents that have all come together, and unfortunately, we have, the one thing we have in common is that we've lost our kids to gun violence. But what we do is reach out to other parents who are in this situation. We also go out into the school system and talk to the young people about the effects of gun violence on them. In addition to that, we also try to provide counseling for those parents, because when this first happened to my family, that resource wasn't there. So we reach out to other parents and we have counseling sessions for them as well. In addition to Purpose Over Pain, I'm also the project or program manager at St. Sabina of an organization called Strong Futures. And that's a violence prevention program where we work with young men ages 18 to 28 to provide them with an intense mentorship with the hopes of connecting them with permanent full-time jobs. And so far with that particular organization, we focused on 50 young men. And of those 50 young men, we currently have 30 of them who are justice involved and have backgrounds, have them now working permanent jobs. So what we've learned is, or what I've learned is that nothing beats a bullet like an opportunity and a job.
Both of your organizations are really helpful to the community. Yeah. So I don't know if you know this, but just yesterday, 2 boys between the ages of 6 to 8 years old were involved in an armed robbery and on the south side of Chicago in Bronzeville. Wow. So why do you think youth have this easy access to guns?
Wow, first of all, I didn't know that had happened the other day. But to answer your question, I believe because, unfortunately, it's not a priority in our society today, and especially here in Chicago. It's not a priority when it pertains to African American and Latino lives. You know, I do believe if this epidemic of gun violence and easy access to guns with young people, if this was happening to another segment of our society, this situation would be addressed and addressed immediately. So how these young people are getting these guns, I mean, I hear the stories all the time. I mean, it's very easy for young people to get guns nowadays. I mean, you can get them, just like you could get candy at a store. So I just think at this particular time, it's not a true priority for our powers that be, because it, again, is affecting African American and Latino young men and women.
I definitely agree. So how do you think the guns end up in the west side and south side of Chicago, and why it's so common in these areas?
Well, again, how they get there, it's easy to get there. I mean, you have, You have people that are actually selling guns out of the back of their cars. You also have what we call bad apple gun dealers that are selling guns to individuals through the back door. You have straw purchasers, people who go in with clean records and purchase guns and then come back out into the community and sell them. And then you just have an element that allows trains to come into our neighborhood, mysteriously get robbed of guns that are just sitting in a yard. This is all, in my opinion, just a systematic a problem, a systemic problem where, again, it's not a priority. It's us killing and destroying us, so it's not necessarily a priority in our society.
I definitely agree. You mentioned the trains. In a Chicago Tribune article, they cited that there were over 400 times that trains were robbed.
Wow.
And just in December of 2009, 319 guns were taken from 116th and Torrance, and in May of 2014, 13 guns were stolen from 61st and Lafayette.
Right, so even if you just look at those figures, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that, these guns are mysteriously being stolen, and these events are happening in both the west and south sides of Chicago, where unemployment and lack of jobs is prevalent, and gang activity is prevalent. So, again, I believe individuals know, if we know that this is happening and it's repeatedly happening, and we're doing nothing about it, then, those, in my opinion, again, it gets back to it's not a priority because, again, it's brown and black lives that are being lost, and that's unfortunate, but that is the reality of what we're dealing with. And we're also dealing with, in our particular communities, a lack of hope on the part of our young people. Many of the young men that I deal with, that's the thing that is prevalent. They don't feel as though they're going to live past a certain age, so they live for today. And when you have poor schools, lack of jobs, easy access to guns, what you have is the perfect storm for what is happening in the city of Chicago right now.
Do you have anything you would like to add about your organizations or anything, or an event you have coming up?
Well, we have several events coming up. We have a Peace Basketball League that'll be coming up, and that'll take place on the 29th of this month, and that'll take place on the campus of St. Sabina. And at that event, what we try to do, not just to have the young people play basketball, but provide an environment where they'll be safe, for a few hours of the day. And if they want to get more information on that, anyone can call 773-483-4300, and we can give you that information. But more importantly, I think it's not one solution to this problem of gun violence. It's going to take us as an entire community working together, and the young people to be the catalyst of us changing what's going on right now.
Well, thank you for coming, Mr. Bosley. And this concludes our show for today. If you would like to join the Brave Youth Leaders, call 773-483-4333. Or join Purpose Over Pain. You can call 773-234-8117. You can also follow and like both organizations on Facebook. Thank you and good night.